Hey everyone, welcome to the Faith and Fandom podcast. We're going on Facebook Live with it today as well as putting it on our podcast app. So glad that you can be here with us. And you haven't been on our podcast in years.
I was on episode 2.
Yeah, you were on episode 2 and we're on there's 160 episodes loaded, but I mean, not all of those are full episodes. We have Critical Hit and stuff, and but yeah, you were on episode 2, and that was a good episode. But we're glad that we. By the way, introduce yourself for the people that don't know you since episode 2.
Sure, yeah. I'm Timmy Martins. I am one of the guys that's been working with Hector for since I was a kid. Actually, he was my neighbor. He's responsible for getting me into comics. And a lot of the video games that I love nowadays comes from him. But anyways, he started doing the Faith and Fandom series, and around book 2, he needed someone to look over his books, and I said I would look over it. I was in a creative writing program at UNCP, and so I started reading through his books, and several books later now I'm one of the guys who looks over it, makes sure that he splits up his paragraphs into logical segments, and any other things. Guys, you should see these books before he gets them published. It's usually
it's one brick.
Yeah, just bricks, entire paragraphs that last 3 pages, so you're welcome.
But so, yeah, Timmy has been editing for, not just editing, but contributing, creative stuff, contributions. It's okay, you can be clunky, we'll deal with it. But, then I was talking to you the other day, and I was, I brought up something from book 5. I'm like, how did both of us let this joke... there was a joke that I read in book 5, and I'm like, crap, who said this was okay?
Yeah.
And apparently, I
thought it was funny.
So apparently 39-year-old Hector has more reservations about things than 30-whatever-year-old Hector. But Timmy is about to start editing book 7. Mm-hmm. God, it sounds so weird to say out loud.
7 is a perfect number, too.
It is a perfect number. We out, but he's editing book 7, and sometime this summer you'll get book 7. And we're doing that. So I just joined, I want to say the bandwagon of Avatar The Last Airbender, but I know that there are people that view it as a bandwagon situation. How do you view newbies?
Oh, please. Okay, so... Avatar The Last Airbender, I mean, there are some things that are, specific that I'm like, oh, you're a bandwagon jumper or whatever. But, since Avatar The Last Airbender is so, universally, loved by everyone who's ever seen it, I want everyone to experience it. So, even if you're late to the party, I mean, come join the party. There's plenty of room. There's plenty to love for everyone. So.
Well, and that's one of the things, too, is, it aired, 2005 to 2008?
I didn't watch it live. I watched it later, yeah.
How did you watch it?
So, I actually joined a writer's guild with some people from all over the world. And my friend Alyssa, actually, she's the name of this guild that they were part of was something to do with Avatar. And as kind of a rite of passage, I had to watch through Avatar The Last Airbender. And it was one of the best shows I'd watched. In fact, I dare say my entire love for anything animated comes from Avatar The Last Airbender, because my knowledge and my love for anything animated just came from Disney movies and stuff. I didn't really watch cartoons growing up or anything like that. So going into that, and then it was around the same time Korra was coming out, and so we were watching it on a weekly basis with Korra as every episode came out, and we would have discussions on that and everything. So that's kind of... I was an adult when I watched Avatar The Last Airbender the first time.
Okay, so you weren't new. You didn't watch it as it aired, but
No, yeah, I was, 17, 18, I think, when I watched through it, so...
Okay. Well, that's one of the things is, if I'm not mistaken, it began in 2005. 2005... I lived at the first house at Camp Grace.
I was in 5th grade.
Yeah, you were in 5th grade. Mm-hmm. And as you well know, there was not a physical means possible to watch Nickelodeon live at where we lived at that point in time. It's just physically impossible. And then adulting happened. And then when I first moved to the house I live in, and we got Netflix, Avatar was actually on Netflix a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, I had a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old. And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And it was just that I was in this attitude of like, I didn't care about actually watching it. But now, like, you know, you said that Avatar taught your love of animation. Mine was Batman the Animated Series. Batman the Animated Series, to me, holds up perfectly. They did a weird thing towards the last season where they actually tried to redesign everything and make everything a little darker, a little grittier, a little more modern. But I still think Batman the Animated Series holds up perfectly. There's 150 episodes, and it still is amazing.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's one of those things of my kids and I have burned through so much animation. We got Disney Plus specifically for Mandalorian. And my legit plan was I'm going to watch Mandalorian, cancel Disney Plus, and then get it back when Falcon and Winter Soldier comes on.
But I've heard so many things about the Clone Wars from you and from so many other people. I know, I need to watch it. I know.
And there's is it? Yeah, and then Nathan said that you know, Batman animated series, yes, it is amazing. But that's the thing, Clone Wars, like we were going to cancel Disney Plus, and then we were like, well, let's watch Clone Wars. And it was the kind of like the thing with Ahsoka, or not with Ahsoka, but with Korra for you. It was like there was new stuff coming. When we knew that there was new Clone Wars coming, and we enjoyed Mandalorian so much, we were like, let's do this, dude. We burned through Clone Wars relatively quickly. We watched all 7 seasons and 3 seasons of Rebels fast. Like, but we were also in quarantine, so, you know, it's like,
yeah.
It is what
it's
it is.
It's the perfect time to do that. It's either that or play Animal Crossing, or both at the same time. Yeah.
We're not allowed to, my kids aren't allowed to play video games and watch TV. If it's something I'm watching for their sake, I'm going to play Animal Crossing, but they can't, like, watch video games. They can't play video games while I watch TV, but, like, that's one of the things is, like, Clone Wars impressed me so much with the fact that the animation was fantastic. Okay, hold on, backtrack. The animation was not fantastic for at least half the series. The storytelling was fantastic. And one of the things I didn't even realize, there's more Star Wars there than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like, there's more Star Wars in Clone Wars than if you add all the movies together.
Yeah.
And so, realistically, if you like Star Wars and you're not watching Clone Wars, you don't really know Star Wars as much. That's like saying, I like the Bible because you read Amos. So it's the perspective of the girth of it. But, you know, my kids and I were watching through that, and we watched Clone Wars, we watched Rebels, and we've watched, our tradition family-wise is we watch Batman the Animated Series every 3 years.
Okay.
And we're up for that. We're at that point. And I'm like, well, let's watch something different because now we have Disney Plus. Let's try the X-Men the Animated Series.
Was it good?
I grew up watching it. Like, it was one of those shows that Saturday after school, or not Saturday, but like every day after school was X-Men, Batman the Animated Series, Animaniacs, maybe Tiny Toons, somewhere in there, that stuff. And Batman the Animated Series, to me, always stood out as it was better than the X-Men show. But the X-Men show actually was the first thing to make me love comic books. Like, it might have just been my 11-year-old, like, hormones towards Rogue or whatever else in the Southern drawl or whatever it was. But
is Kitty Pryde in that one?
If she is, she's not in the first 3 seasons.
Okay.
And I don't think they really developed her.
Oh.
I guess the thing, like, one of the crazy things is Deadpool as a character had just been created, like, was still fresh on the ink on the pages when that show came out. So they would randomly throw Deadpool in the backgrounds of things.
That's great.
Without developing him, because nobody actually knew anything about him yet.
Yeah, and it fits his character, too.
Yeah, he's just, like, rogue, walking around. But that's one of the things, is, like, we were watching this, and, you know, I told my kids, I was like, I really think we, as a family, need to invest in Last Airbender, but we have to finish the X-Men series first, because we need to see it through. And, dude, like, I think I made it through one more X-Men episode, and I'm like, let's go ahead and start Airbender. And then, like, my 10-year-old's like, yeah, that was trash. They enjoyed meeting the characters, and we will finish it, but it was just one of those things if we jumped into it. So, like, we started it on Saturday, the Saturday after it came out. And, yes, and, you know, X-Men, you know, one of our, you know, Sorry if I totally butcher your name, but I think it's Nashon. But I'm sorry. But either
Mr. Malloy.
Mr. Malloy. But Mr. Malloy. Mr. Malloy commented that X-Men was a great cartoon show because it was the first one that did really deal with prejudice. But I mean, that's also the heart of the X-Men series as a existence, not just a cartoon. That it really was the first comic book that really dealt with segregation, racism, stuff like that. And it actually did a great job with that. And so that's like, it also had a flippin' episode where Wolverine like gets saved.
Really?
Like there's an episode where Wolverine, Gambit, and maybe Rogue, I think it's Rogue, I have to rewatch this episode, are up in the mountains, and Nightcrawler is at a monastery. And the entire the whole episode is back and forth faith dialogue, and literally the episode culminates with Wolverine on his knees in a church by himself saying, "God, I need you," like professing faith.
Huh.
And like it's legitimate. If you scroll through the Faith and Fandom videos, it's in there. Because I saved that video and put it up there. But it's just one of those things. The X-Men was powerful, but the animation was a bit wonky. And it was a little cheesier than Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah. See, like I think a lot of these cartoons and stuff, they live better in our memories. I remember going back to some old shows. Like I'm thinking, even just some of them that were just corny. And I remember as a kid, I was like, "Wow, this was so funny." And I remember like talking them up even as an adult. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that show was the junk back then." And going back into it, like when Disney Plus came up, some of these like old Disney Channel shows like Sweet Life and That's a Raven and Phil the Future and all those.
I was way an adult.
Oh yeah, definitely. But those were my shows, right? Those are the ones I grew up on. And I remember watching through the first couple episodes of Sweet Life, and I'm like, holy cow, I can't do this. I can't get through this. I remember going through some of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I remember watching that, and I'm like, are they just going to talk the entire time? Like, I think the highs and lows, I think as a child, you tend to remember those highs, those really big high points where, you know, you have like Egyptian gods going up against each other in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or those jokes that they told in Sweet Life, you know, where they were just so much more funny. And those were really big high moments, but then as an adult, I think you become so much more aware of these lows, and you're like, wow, this is actually not worth it. But I think Avatar actually stands up against that very resiliently. I didn't watch it as a kid though, but I know that so many adults, especially if you spend any time on TikTok or social media, like almost everyone is watching through this show right now, and everyone is fondly recounting how they loved it, how they watched it as a kid. People have come on late for the party and they're like, we love this show. It's really cool how it stood the test of time.
What was really funny to me was watching people's reaction to the fact that I was watching this. Yes. They're like, "Oh man, I can't wait for you to write about this or do that." And
I was one of them.
There was a ton of comments with that, and unless a burning passion spurs up with me in the next week, there's not going to be a.
I'm going to keep sending you Uncle Iroh quotes then.
I literally went on Redbubble like in bed. I rolled over and I rolled over in bed last night and got on Redbubble and ordered stickers of almost every Uncle Iroh quote.
He's such a goat. I love him.
He is. I mean, Iroh's up there now. Like, Iroh's up there with Shepherd Book, and like people like, I see you. You're great.
Yeah.
So many good things. But so you told me how you started watching Avatar. Like, what to you is like so remarkable about the series as a series?
I think it's there's a couple of reasons why. I think it's very dazzling with just its animation style in itself. I think the mixture of martial arts into their bending, which is, you know, their form of magic, I could say.
Yeah.
Mixing those intricate moves and celebrating that culture, that Eastern culture, and but doing it in an American, it's not an anime. It's an American cartoon.
But it's the most American anime thing out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember seeing some people comment, like when it was coming out, and it's like where's those, I hate this dubbed crap. Where are the subs? And I'm just like, guys, it's an American cartoon. There's no.
It's from Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I know. Like, don't you see? But I really like how it does celebrate, that martial arts, and then a lot of the aspects of its culture. Now, I know that I was when I first started watching through it, one of the people in my life, who was a Christian, he actually criticized me about it because he's like, well, I know that the creators were very influenced by Eastern belief and all of these things about like the monks about emptying yourself and stuff, and so I kept that in the back of my mind, and then rewatching it again many years later with some younger friends. I think one of the biggest joys I had was watching it through with a family, and in that family there was like a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and watching them react to the silly things that I wouldn't react to made the show so much better.
Oh yeah.
But that's beside the point. Anyways, watching through it again, and I had that in my brain. I was processing it through. And I think Avatar The Last Airbender, though it's influenced by those beliefs, I don't think it necessarily preaches or forces it onto its viewers by any stretch of the imagination, because, minor spoilers here, Aang actually rejects a lot of the teachings of Gyatso, and it actually celebrates that. In the end, Aang does not go off to be a celibate monk. Aang loves Katara well, sorry guys, Aang loves Katara in the end. I know that all those Utara shippers out there, I'm sorry, Aang and Katara are the OTP, okay? Not Zuko and Katara. I don't buy that. Sorry. Just...
I don't ship at all.
That's good. I do.
I can't. Like, shipping characters, I'm like, let the creators tell their story.
Exactly. And I almost always ship what I think is canon, and if it turns out not to be canon, I'm like, oh well, whatever. So I'm still holding out for Uraraka and Bakugo. But anyways, I really liked how they were able to still expose Avatar The Last Airbender. I like how they were still able to kind of like expose us to this culture without being preachy about it.
But I mean, one of the things that I saw recently too, like on the cultural development of it, was to actually show how accurate different outfits and things were per region, because that's like you don't usually get that where they actually take time to do costume references to that detail.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like how it doesn't hold back its punches from addressing really deep issues, even though it is a show for children. Kind of like how the X-Men series, you were saying, really like opened your eyes or kind of addressed the whole issue of unfair treatment. And X-Men really lends itself to be able to do that. I think Avatar, through each of its characters, is able to really just show amazing character development. I'm thinking about like how Katara within the first season is able to say, "Look, I have worth as a woman," and I like how she's able to portray that in very simple terms that children could understand.
Well, that was one of the things that hit me so hard was like in the first episode, if I'm not mistaken, it might be episode 2. I mean, literally, all this was a blur. I watched it in 4 days. But in the first or second episode, she straight up calls someone sexist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she calls her brother sexist.
She calls her brother sexist. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this was 2005. It was Nickelodeon. Mm-hmm. And in 2005 Nickelodeon culture, it was okay to go ahead and say, hey, you're acting sexist.
Yeah.
And that, like, just I was like, oh, this is the party we're at. Great, go on.
And by the end of the series, I think the young children watching that show would understand that it's not about one person rising up over the other one. It's about, you doing what you're good at, you allowing other people to help you be good at it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. If Katara wanted to be a waterbender, pursue that, and she ended up being one of the greatest, if not the greatest at that time, waterbender that the world had ever seen. Especially season 3, one of the best episodes. Oh my goodness, with the blood bending.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. You're a bloodbender, Katara! Like, no.
Oh, man.
One of the things that honestly hit me so hard was, and I'm not going to say they jacked it up or that they didn't give it enough love, but I gotta say, one of my favorite moments in the whole series was, Sokka being trained in swordsmanship.
Absolutely, yes.
Like, I could have dealt with 4 or 5 episodes on that.
Oh yeah.
And because that's one of the things, to being the one normal guy in the group, and like actually gaining that skill set, and like literally, I think I was emotional through the last 4 episodes anyway. But like when he's like, buy Space Sword, as it's like falling to the ground. I'm like,
just crying.
and I was like, no, Space Sword. And like, I was like, literally, I'm like, Toph, sorry. I was like, reach over and air rock bend, whatever, like the earth.
You were emotional.
I was. Yeah. I was like, bend the sword back! But I was just like...
She can't see that.
Oh, I didn't even think about it. She should have felt it.
Yeah.
She should have felt it because she had the bracelet made out of the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, she could have like, I don't know. But I was hopeful that, but that's because you don't realize Toph is blind through 80% of it.
And neither do the other characters, which I think is kind of funny how she rolls with those punches so well. Like I was just watching a little bit of it on the way here. Like when Sokka like bumps into her and he's like, watch where you're going, and she's like, I can't. Just stuff like that. I thought that they handled that. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that and I mentioned to you too, like her putting up the poster.
Yes.
Like I thought it was like when they were looking for Appa, and I'm like, okay. But that's one of the things too is like I also feel not only was it like empowering for young females, because listen, I like my lens as a father of 3 girls. Like, I always walk away with, like, how is this strengthening my kids?
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I love Clone Wars and Rebels so much, is because you've got Ahsoka Tano, you've got Sabine, you've got Zendula, you've got all these strong female characters. And that's, like, early on, I'm like, great, but, like, they empower that, but also, throwing it out there for Toph, how, like, literally, even though she was blind, she was never once second-guessed, outside of her parents.
Yeah.
That she had value or worth or capability.
Absolutely.
And I know that every kid with a disability doesn't have, bending powers or anything, but it's still empowering to be able to have that representation and encouragement.
Yeah, I love how it shows that in spite of your circumstances, so Katara, she had her moments, Toph, that's her name. See, she had her moment. But even Sokka, the fact that he wasn't extraordinary in any way by that world standards, he was still able to find multiple ways to rise above, and he was still able to find multiple ways to stand out. With because I'll be honest, the first time when I watched it through, I was like, 17-year-old or something, I didn't actually like Sokka. I thought he was annoying. I didn't think he was very redeemable. But then watching it through again, the second time I did, I was like, Sokka's great. I loved his humor. I loved the levity he brought. I loved his thing with his boomerang. And I loved that he's able to actually bring up very important things about, like, hey, I'm not a bender, but I still have worth. Or I'm not a bender, I still want to be valuable to the team. And that's that hunt and search that I think I related to. Because when working in ministry and everything, it doesn't matter how talented or how good you are. There's always going to be someone else that is going to be bigger or better or whatever. And so I related to that of like, I'm nothing extraordinary, but I can still, if I dig deep into the things that I know I'm good at, if I dig deep into the things that God has given me and into those things, I can actually do something that's really, really good for the kingdom. And I think just Sokka's able to demonstrate that really, really effectively.
Sokka is effectively Neville Longbottom of the squad.
That's right, yeah.
And that's the thing, like the Neville archetype of character. I mean, I guess Neville's the archetype. I know Neville did come first. But I think it's really that character that isn't the hero but brings great value.
Yeah.
Because, we have this culture in our entertainment where you're either the hero or you're an NPC.
Yeah.
And literally none of what was accomplished in Avatar The Last Airbender could have happened without Sokka. Mm-hmm. The strategic planning, the humility, the things that he brought to the team.
Mm-hmm. The boomerang. I mean, it saved him from Sparky Boom Man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's very valuable. They would have died multiple times without it. But I'll say this. I think all those characters are good, but I think that the two biggest highlights for me, which really got me into the show, were two different arcs. And that is of Zuko and that of Azula. Those two siblings, I think, really solidify that this show is one of the best. Because not only does it have one of the best redemption arcs, but also has such a great villain, but who also you get to see her. You get to see so much more of Azula. You have to remember that Azula's like 15 years old during this entire thing. She's younger than Zuko, and she has been called a monster her entire life, and she's like, okay, fine, I guess I'm a monster. But deep down, she doesn't want to be one. I think her development through the entire series is one of the most tragic, especially on that last episode. Azula, like, that still just resonates with me about, like, what happens. What happens when that kind of thing happens to someone, when you start painting them as something and they rise up to be exactly what you've said they were going to be.
Well, that's, like, literally, like you said, Zuko has the redemption arc, but her utter deconstruction, and, she had the label that she rose up with, but, like, when it came down to it, like, when she's put in power, like, she deconstructs so fast because she can't trust anyone.
That's right.
Because she thinks everyone sees her as they've projected her. And, like, as she's just literally cutting off limbs left and right of the people in her squad, like, just literally watching her boil down into madness and chaos, like, hurt my heart. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
And then the other thought, too, was, like, when Zuko and her were falling in the prison escape, and, like, Appa, like, swings in and picks up Zuko and doesn't pick her up, like, and he turned the corner, and I'm like, okay, here's another Zuko redemption thing. He's gonna say, grab my sister, or, like, swing back for her. He just goes, I don't think she's gonna make it. And I'm just like, you savage. I'm like, you can't, you just literally, you're on a flying creature who could swoop down and save your dying sister, and you're just like, I don't think she's gonna make it. And but it was, like, also the Iroh thing of the Iroh thing of, like, no, she's crazy and she's got to go down. Yeah. Like when he was talking to Azula with that, or about Azula. So
yeah, I think that's one of the most important dynamics too, is the difference between Azula and Zuko. One of the biggest differences, I mean, they're raised by the same people. I know they had different expectations, but one of them was a mama's boy and one of them was a daddy's girl. But I think the biggest separation between the two of them is that Zuko had Iroh and Azula did not. And because if Zuko didn't have Iroh, I don't think Zuko would have come around. I think Zuko would have continued to hunt for his father's approval. He would have continued to hunt the Avatar. But because there was someone who loved him... Ooh, I'm going to get emotional here. But because there was someone who loved him, and someone who wouldn't stop pursuing him, and someone who waited for him to come back, and when he did come back, that scene where he's like, there was nothing to forgive. I was just worried that you had lost your way. Oh, man.
Well, that's what you were waiting on me to get to.
Yes.
You were like, where you at? I see by your memes you're close. And that's one of the things is, like, I had seen that scene over meme history so many times that, like, I'm not going to say it was, like, neutered, like, or that it was the effectiveness was taken away, but I knew that was coming. And, that's one of the things when you're watching a show that's, like, 15 years old.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
You know that the that's like Darth Vader is Luke's father. You like, yeah, you know that it's coming. But honestly, one of my favorite things too about Zuko's redemption arc is that it wasn't neat.
Yes.
If Zuko would have made it to that moment in the cave.
Yeah, end of season 2. That's right. Yeah.
End of season 2. If he would have made it to that moment in the cave and flipped right then and joined Team Avatar, I would have been like, man.
Yeah, not believable. It just, it wouldn't have been... I love what they did there. When I was watching it the first time, I remember being just like, no, don't do it. No, how dare you? I can't believe you, Zuko. But I love the beginning of season 3. I think it's very stressful, and because, with the no sleep episode and the whole we have to be in disguise and I can't go into the Avatar state and all of these things going on, and Zuko being Zuko. But I think what that does is it gives each character an extra dose of development. And you're able to see so much more of the characterization within that moment. And I think, again, Zuko, I think, makes this show so much better because then you get to, when he finally does join Team Avatar, just to be able to see his interactions with each of the people in Team Avatar is one of the coolest things. I love his friendship with Aang in the end.
Well, it's like, what Toph is saying is like, do I get to take my, like, life-changing journey with you now?
That's right.
Not Aang, sorry, Toph.
Yeah.
But Toph, everybody got their little individual Zuko life-changing journey. And that's one of the things, because, with redemption in all of our lives, really, it's rarely ever that neat.
Yeah. That's
because
true.
Usually, like, we get grace, we get forgiveness, people give us second chances, people give us third and fourth chances, and then when we're at that point when we really should, like, step up, would just completely drop everything.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really neat just to be able to say, okay, you fouled up, you did this, but it was nice knowing that. But I just really appreciated that. What was ask you this because I know we're all singing praises. What's the least favorite thing for you about the show?
Oh boy, okay, I have to dig deep for this. Like if it was just The Last Airbender, I have a couple complaints about this series after. I have a couple complaints.
I haven't touched Korra yet.
Yeah, and so that will have to be another episode because there are some gems in Korra. And listen, if you're watching this and you're like, I'm never going to touch Korra because everyone is saying so many terrible things about it, it can be rough, yes, but I think it's totally worth it, and you should try it. Just saying. Okay, now that we've talked about that, going through. Oh man, it's hard to. It's honestly, it lives so fondly in my nostalgia. It's hard to find the fault in it. I would have to watch it with that lens to see if I can find something that I'm not the biggest fan of. There are some characters that I'm not like terribly like. Ooh, I think all the characters are useful and helpful, which I think is really cool. There's not many fodder characters. But like, I wasn't the biggest fan of May. I know a lot of people liked her. But I
thought she had some surprising turns. Like, she kept me guessing. Like,
I think just Ty Lee and Azula had so much more going for them than May. But
I also think that adds to the element of, you're either the hero, the bad guy, or the comedic thing. The fact that sometimes you're just indifferent about what's going on.
Yeah.
To be able to have an apathetic person or someone who's emotionally shut down. Again, that's another layer of reality with it.
Yeah, I think she's very useful. And so like honestly, like I don't think she does discredit to the show. She's just not one of my favorites. With the I think I like even complaints like the Earth King's bear I think is hilarious in the end.
I wanted to know what happened. I wanted them to show back up like towards the end.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us want to know what happens to Zuko's mother because that's a whole thing. And then in episode 1 of Korra, Jinora comes up and asks one of the characters. It's the first episode, guys. I'm just going to say it. Goes up to Grandma Katara. Jinora is her granddaughter and says, "Oh, can you tell us the story about Zuko's mother?" And she's about to launch into it, and then Iki comes in and interrupts her. And so we still don't know. But I believe there are comics that delve into what happens to Zuko's mother. So if you ever get those, please let me borrow them.
Okay, I'll look into that.
But and so I know they leave some doors intentionally shut, but I think they did that for a reason. And so that also isn't a complaint. I think a lot of the filler episodes are hilarious. Honestly, I'm trying to think of a filler episode I didn't like the beach episode. Hilarious. I loved that one.
But the beach episode had so much depth.
Absolutely.
Like that fire, when they're standing around talking to the fire, I was like, one of the memes I saw before I got to the beach episode, and it's like, this is how it proves that Avatar is actually an anime, because it has a beach episode.
It has a beach episode, yeah.
But like, literally, my kids and I were like sitting there watching the beach episode, like, well, crap, I didn't expect it to go this deep.
Yeah.
Because like it went deep. I was like,
and then the recap episode of the theater play was actually really funny. One of the best recaps ever because of just how it worked out. And there's again a little bits of development in it throughout the whole thing. Man, like, so I'm still trying to pinpoint like a certain episode that I didn't like, and I'm having a hard time actually doing that because like if you watch through,
I didn't love the school episode.
Oh, the one where he Footloose in an episode.
Yeah.
How do you not like Footloose in an episode? Come on, man. I think it's just mainly because I like how that episode shows Aang's value to just having fun, where all of this terrible stuff has happened to him, but he still wants to do something special for this small group of young people, or there's a small group of peers. It kind of proves again that, hey, this kid's just 12, 13 years old.
Yeah. Because that was a very middle school thing to do.
Yes, a very, very middle school thing to do.
That's something my daughter would come up with.
Yeah. I also just love every episode with the Fire Nation outfits. I think they're fun. For the brief like spans that it is. I love that. I love that arc. I love when Katara goes to the village and pretends to be the painted lady,
That was a good one.
What a great episode. And also Katara is my favorite character. Iroh and Katara. Katara is my favorite from the gang. And so anytime that she gets to shine, I absolutely love that. So
that's the thing too. Like I thought, how much dexterity and depth Iroh brought to the table.
Amen.
Like literally. So when I rolled over in the middle of last night, I bought Iroh stickers, and then I started looking for an Iroh Funko Pop, which by the way releases in June.
Ooh.
Where he's holding tea.
Ooh.
Pre-orders coming. So I'm looking for that because like some of the Avatar Funko Pops that are already out like are running for the hundreds. There's an Azula that John, who we're gonna see in a little while, actually has an Azula that's at about 150 right now.
Wow.
And Avatar State, yep. And that's the other thing too. One of the things that I thought also was so impressive was like, thank you, Beulah. When honestly, like the full blown Avatar State with all 4 elements like swirling, bro, I thought that was gangster. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I literally, my first thought, and I'm not honestly saying this because I know that there's going to be a million canonical reasons why this won't work, but like when I first saw him in Avatar State, I'm like, this guy could take Goku. And I was like, I know that's not remotely the case. I get it. Don't yell at me. But like that was my first thought in seeing him in full Avatar State, that he could take Goku.
And I'll say this: if you like Avatar State stuff, like really get into Korra, because you have to realize she's older. She's been trained in all 3 elements except one at the very beginning of the show. And so her access to the Avatar State, she's not, I'll say, she struggles with the spiritual element of being the Avatar, but when she does get into the Avatar State, since she's already a master of 3 of the elements and working on the 4th, like, she demonstrates some really cool skills with the Avatar State. So if you think Aang is awesome in the Avatar State, just wait till you see Korra and some of the crap that she pulls, because she's able to do all that stuff like day 1. So.
And what's one of the things too that like impressed me when I was watching it, I was like, I honestly said, the kids and I watched it because we did just finish Clone Wars, and they're like, my kids said, man, this is like the best show since Clone Wars. Or she like a couple times during the storytelling elements, they're like, this feels like Clone Wars. And then like literally found out yesterday that Dave Filoni, who made Mandalorian and Clone Wars and Rebels and the bulk of the Star Wars universe now, actually was a part of Nickelodeon. Mm-hmm. He actually helped make Avatar, and he directed 9 episodes.
Yeah.
So if you watch Clone Wars and Avatar and you get like some familiar hints, that's there. Is there anything that you feel like you believe is a direct knockoff, rip-off, or inspiration of Avatar in pop culture since then?
Oh, goodness. In my own life, I notice that all the time. Just especially... Oh, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily because of Avatar, but that coming of age kind of thing, I see it just start to really like take place whenever I do my writing, or I do anything of that kind. But anything, since it's so iconic with the... it's so iconic with just the bending of the elements and stuff, that any time that I see like animes or anything where someone is like, bending, see, aren't we saying it? You like do have like water like water powers or anything, I'm just like, wow, that looks a lot like Avatar The Last Airbender. And like any kind of like fire manipulation and stuff, I think that especially if there's like any like kung fu move leading up to it, I'm just like, that looks a lot like firebending, guys. And so like from an animation standpoint, it feels that way because, again, that was also a first for me. I know there are animes that go way beyond before that and other things that had that kind of thing, but in Avatar The Last Airbender, we see that there are like move sets, and each bending has a different style of combat with it.
Like the dancing dragon and everything.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And Iroh to be able to say things like the power comes from the breath, and you and then you start to see things in Korra where like some of it's from the limbs and some of it's from the inside and everything. It's really cool. But other things to see that it's a ripoff. I honestly wish I could say I paid that much attention. But honestly, when I'm dazzled by something, I'm not paying attention to how it cross-references with other things.
Well, like one of my first thoughts was like when I was watching, I guess it was season 2, with Bo Sing Se, I felt like Attack on Titan was a straight up, okay, so you took Bo Sing Se and made monsters, cool. I was like, I felt like, it's like, okay, this directly, it was just opinion that I was like, okay, this directly inspired Attack on Titan, cool, I get you.
I didn't warn you in time, but if we're going to talk about episodes, though, we have to talk about the Tales of Ba Sing Se. Because, again, another quote-unquote filler episode that going through each and every single person, like Sokka going into the what are those, haiku? Or is that with a 575? But, and all of that's just made obsolete, though, by Iroh's little tiny 5-minute clip. Whew.
I literally, one of the things that happens when we watch TV together is when my kids and I are watching something, we'll be sitting on our big couch all watching stuff together, and when they hear something poignant in a show, usually Rosa will like side eye me and like see if I'm gonna say something, or if like enough stuff strings together, I'll be like, get my laptop. And like while we're watching it, like I'll literally get up, move to the table and like keep watching, but I'll go back and start screenshotting what we just did. And so like something had happened, like a line had happened earlier, and so when I saw that this was kind of a filler episode, I got up and went to the table and I started memeing like the previous episode, and I'm sitting there at the table and like I start hearing, Iroh talk, so I obviously paid more attention. And like I look over and I'm just like sitting there like hands on the keyboard, like like with leaves of the vine. I'm like,
oh, when he lights the incense and puts the picture up of his son,
woof,
I'm like,
done.
Oh no. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And what a great episode, seriously. Like it holds up in my memory better because, again, as a kid, I don't think we connect. I didn't connect I definitely got emotional when I was younger about watching it again. And I guess you guys would have to sound off in the comments here about how you guys took it as a kid and then how you took it as an adult. Because I saw some memes where it just said me as a kid and it shows a guy crying and it shows me as an adult and that person crying. Because, I mean, it's so emotional there. And I think it really then puts that dynamic of Iroh is going to be there for Zuko. He's not going to make the same mistakes that he made with his own son. And it's like, oof, that's just heavy stuff. I mean, for a kid's show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. I don't view it as a kid's show at all. Like, no. I'm 25 and I'd watch it again. I'm about to watch it through again with another friend. So
one of my pleasant surprises is the thing that just like totally jumped out at me that I was not ready for, because I've heard all these people have all these things that they love about this show, and the one thing no one freaking mentioned is that Mark Hamill is the freaking Fire Lord. So like, and the first, cause voice actors are important, and Mark,
because Mako, right?
Mako, like the first time I heard Mako talk, I'm like, it's Aku! And like, I got excited, and I'm like, well, and that made sense, being the generation, I was like, that's Aku talking.
And he passed away during the second season of Avatar The Last Airbender, and so the third season, Iroh's not the same voice as second season.
No, it's, but that's what the thing is, the same guy that replaced him as Iroh replaced him as Aku.
Okay, that's awesome.
So like the dude's good at having a Mako-esque voice, and he's his own actor as well. But like then one of the things that like the fact that it was Mark Hamill, I'm sitting there again. I think I was making memes and because there's a lot of Avatar memes. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. They're my favorites.
I was sitting there, and when I think it was when. It might have been when Zuko walks into the room during the invasion.
Ooh! Oh, what a great scene.
That was fantastic.
Oh,
you will listen. But like when he's like, I'm like, literally, like the hair stood on my head. Like, that's Mark Hamill. That's the Joker. That's Luke Scott. I was like, all the Mark Hamill voices, because literally the thing that got me is like one of the things he said when his voice was real subtle and like cutting. I was like, that's Mark Hamill's Joker. And I was like, I heard the Joker. And like literally the emotional impact, Fire Lord, automatically like quadrupled in like impact on me because he brought all the terror and tenacity of all the other iterations of him. So like every bit of like mental connection and dread to Mark Hamill's voice as a villain, like I'm like I was automatically like with that like backing away.
Man, I wish I would have had that connection, because I guess one of the complaints that now that you've said that is I didn't really connect that much with Ozai, Firelord Ozai, but I wish I would have been able to connect Mark Hamill, because I didn't realize that until you messaged me with that several days ago. That I mean, because I don't know Mark Hamill's voice like you know Mark Hamill's voice, and I wish I would have been able to connect that, because I think one of the weaker things in Avatar is the fact that there's just this hidden Fire Lord in the background that we don't see much of until the very end, and so I think Azula is a much more compelling villain than he is, for multiple reasons. We see more of her. She has her own episodes. You know, we see her dynamic with her friends and her brother and everything. But Ozai's characterization is, I want to rule the world. I am a power-thirsty man, and I want to rule the world. And that's basically all we get from him. We don't know anything else. Like, willing to, like, sacrifice his wife in order to get there. I mean, I have no idea, because I haven't... And his son. I don't know what happens to his wife, but, I mean, from the flashback, that's what's implied. So.
And Beulah actually says Leaves from the Vine was his actual last recording.
Wow.
Yeah, right? That's even...
I can't... I'm going to skip the episode when I go through it again.
No,
I'm
don't
kidding.
You dare. Don't you dare.
I'm kidding.
It's not Scott's Tots. You can't do that. But, like, S2, like, I know it's a much less nerdy thing, but there's this Jars of Clay song called, I want to say it's Fall Asleep, but it's on one of their, I want to say it's on their Inland album. And it's literally about a song about pleading with someone, stay with me, don't leave me, type thing. And then after they filmed the video, the lead singer had a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't die. But it was like literally he had just made this video about please don't leave me, and then had like this traumatic heart attack. And it's this crazy thing of like, you know, voice actors and actors and people like that, you know, you never know when your last role is.
Yeah. And
like what it's going to impact. So literally of all the things that could be Mako's last thing was Iroh Leaves from the Vine, which his replacement, I was reading an article with him that says that's the one thing he refuses to do. That at Comic-Cons and stuff like that, he's always asked to sing Leaves from the Vine. He's like, nope.
Yeah,
that's Mako's, and it's like not touching that.
What a boss!
But that's the thing. Like I had Mark Hamill from Batman the Animated Series, from Injustice, from all the animated movies, and just all those things. So I literally think one of the things I actually really enjoyed, you know, on the counter thought of it, is that they stacked the villains.
Yeah,
and so that you get the big boss final Bowser effect of it. Yeah. So it's like you get, you know, the dude that was the first guy.
Admiral Zhao.
Yeah. You get him. Okay, he's gone. Then, you know, at the end of that, they drop Azula.
Yeah.
And so you got Azula for a whole season. And then at the end of that, bam, you drop Fire Lord. Yeah. But literally, dude, I think that's the thing. They probably put more money into the budget for just to get Mark Hamill to say those lines.
That's right.
Than the first seasons combined.
Yeah.
And because like I don't think there's, you know, a lot more you can do with that, because when you hear those voices, you hear. I mean, it's the same thing of like David Tennant plays a robot that helps young Padawans build their lightsabers in Clone Wars, and it's just like, you know, the minute I hear David Tennant talking, I'm like, what?
Yeah,
that's David Tennant, or like, you know, different things, you know, with that, or the fact that James Earl Jones was Darth Vader in Rebels.
Really?
And like that, you've got more dialogue of Darth Vader in Rebels than in any other thing.
Wow.
James Earl Jones has more dialogue as in Rebels as Darth Vader than anything. And so that's just, the voice acting was important. The voice acting was great. And one of the other things too I'd mentioned to you is that like Katara is a famous voice actress. She's been doing stuff since 1995, but she's younger than me. But like she's also had her own movies. She's Roxy from Scott Pilgrim. She's on the show Good Girls. She's the one that's not Donna from Parks and Rec or Saffron from Firefly. The short little human. That's Katara. But it's like, was there a voice that really connected with you or didn't connect with you?
Well, I mean, I think Zuko's voice does connect because it's so different than most voices that you would expect. But I mean, other than him, and then Iroh, of course, because I mean that's just such an iconic voice. But since I didn't watch many other cartoons, like I can't connect him with other things. Like Iroh was Iroh.
Yeah.
But other than I think Zuko
long ago there was an ancient samurai warrior. I mean, I was like he basically was, his big thing for me was Aku, and he basically sounded like Iroh with a scratchy throat. So
yeah. But I can't specifically do it with Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I don't recognize voices like that. I'm starting to get better at it when it comes to, because
not even voice actors, but is there a delivery you liked?
Like.
Because, Aang always reminded me of Charlie Brown the whole time. Like, the entire time when he's talking, I'm literally mentally picturing Charlie Brown.
Got it. Yeah, I like the, when it comes just to voice acting, and I don't know, like, if I can connect it to something else, but I love the venom that Azula is able to implant into her voice at every time she ever says something. There's like, you have that cold shiver that runs down your spine. Yes. I think she very much takes after her father, Mark Hamill. And in regards to that, she was very effective. I think, and again, whenever Iroh talks, it's just that warmth. It's just like, I want to have tea with him. Like, come on, Zuko, what is your problem? Sit down and have tea with your uncle.
It's just hot leaf water.
I think there are I can see the whole Charlie Brown thing, especially with like the bald head thing, going with them. But I do love Aang's voice. I think it does very much capture that character. I love the Cabbage Cart guy.
Oh, I love the Cabbage Cart guy.
Yeah.
He has his own Funko Pop with a cart of cabbage.
That's good. Yeah. That's very good. His just know that his ancestors continue on, and you see more of the Cabbage guy in The Legend of Korra. Just be prepared for
Fantastic.
that. It's so good.
All right.
So good.
All right, last thing just to end with this.
Sure.
Let's talk the movie.
Oh, no. Let me leave. No. Listen, I watched it once. And I think I blocked it out completely from my memory, because now I see like these little like TikToks on of like screen caps from the movie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is terrible. First of all, his name is Aang, not Ong. His name is Sokka, not Soka. Why would M. Night Shyamalan, whatever his last name is, why on earth would he change something so iconic?
And even saying Avatar, it's like Avatar.
And then what is Appa? Appa's supposed to be like a lovable, huggable thing. That thing is the thing of my nightmares.
And you barely see him.
Because they probably didn't have the budget to make a good enough looking one. And then the bending is just like, like what they do in this show. And I know it's possible to do this in live action.
The movie came out in 2010. The Matrix was 1999.
Yeah, like there's no excuse. They could have. I mean, we see some really cool animation that happens in some of these other movies that come out of, and so like if it's like I don't know, like what was he thinking?
What happened?
I think I do love Shyamalan or whatever, because he's made some pretty good movies. I did like Signs. I do love The Village.
Signs.
I love The Village.
Signs is my favorite one he made.
Yeah, and some of his newer ones that he's come out with, they're excellent movies. But I just don't think his skills are lended very effectively to the Avatar series. I think if any, okay, my question to you: if you had to make a new live action movie, or I'll say TV show, because I don't think Avatar 60 episodes of something lends itself to be able to be in a movie format anyways. Yes. There's just too much that happens. So if you were to make like a Netflix adapted TV show, which there are rumors that is happening,
right?
I've just learned to never put any stock in the rumors until I actually see it happen.
It depends on where the rumors come from for me, but yeah.
Yeah, but okay, so if they actually did make a live action, who would you put directing it?
Directing it?
Yes. Who would you trust?
Based solely on the combatant elements, I would have to probably go with Quentin Tarantino. Just because, like, if I want if I want that kind of like combat to actually show on film, I need Kill Bill. Like, I feel like if you're going to translate Avatar physically, you need the dude who made Kill Bill or something like that, or just someone that like makes like Ip Man or stuff like that. Like,
you can bring Snyder in for whenever there is a fire bending explosion.
Yes.
Everything else,
But that's one of the things too. Is like, I've learned that bringing in big name directors doesn't matter if they don't understand why the story is special. And because literally, dude, literally the first, like, my kids didn't even make it past the intro because we didn't actually plan to watch the movie. We finished the last episode of Avatar. And we were still on the couch, and we were in our feels. And we were like, let's just peek and see how bad this is. And we were still on the high of, like, we just saw that ending. And by the way, 61 episodes or whatever it was, compact, well laid out, delivered well. They nailed the execution.
Mm-hmm. And they stuck the landing.
Oh, they stuck the landing. It was great. But so I was like, okay, I have to see how bad this is. Dude, they didn't make it past the intro. They're like, with just the kicking the rocks, they're like, oh, this is garbage. And then like, so we started like fast forwarding like little by little. And they're like, dude, I gotta say straight out the gate, I was offended when I saw who Katara and Sokka were. I'm like, what? I'm like, who is that ginger little woman? And why is the guy from Twilight Sokka? And which I didn't know he was the guy from Twilight. My daughter pointed that out. Not that I can't know Twilight, but she's in.
You can have your man card back.
You get I have no cards at all. My deck's on the floor somewhere. But like literally, it was just so bad, and then like. When Gran was, looked like Betty White. And it's just like, I'm like, why are y'all doing this? But the thing that got me so bad was like how bad the actual bending was. Mm-hmm. Like,
did you get to the climax of that movie?
Yeah.
So,
we fast forwarded, but we got
right in the show. Aang teams up with the water spirit guy, or the moon spirit, becomes this gigantic water monster and single-handedly takes on the entire navy, the Fire Nation navy. In the movie, he makes a giant wave that just stands there. Okay. Come on. Like, the ending of season 1 of Avatar The Last Airbender is so great because
it's fantastic,
and because to see Aang do that, like team up with that, but he's just like, hold on, let me just make this big wave.
Well, the kid playing Aang in the movie was so lifeless.
Yeah,
he had none of the joy or youth that Aang had brought.
He was a good kung fu little kid.
Yes,
but apart from that, it was
That's the kid. If the kid playing Aang didn't make you have to yell at him to calm down, like in between scenes, you got the wrong kid.
Yeah.
Whoever played Aang needed to be like, he can't have sugar. Like it needs to be
like the kid off of Shazam, the friend. He needed to have that kind of energy.
Yes.
Just straight up, just non-stop energy.
Freddy.
Yeah, Freddy. Yeah, I love Freddy. Freddy's probably my favorite character in that movie.
He's great. All right, so well, there's just so much. And then when we saw Zuko and Iroh, we're like, oh no. And then like the dude who plays Monty from Series of Unfortunate Events on Netflix is also the main villain or one of the main villains. I was just like, y'all, this is unfortunate.
Yeah.
My biggest beef though is like Nickelodeon Studios not only allowed it to happen, they made it.
Yeah.
And they made it less than 3 years after they finished Avatar. Mm-hmm. So how in your house can you allow this and this? How can you make this and allow this representation of it? I was just like, I was disappointed that happened.
Yeah. If you want more Avatar, seriously, I think there's one streaming, I forget which streaming place it is, that you can watch Korra. I might even own it I might own some of it, maybe all of it on Amazon. I'll look into it. But it's definitely, it definitely continues the story. Again, I don't think it's told to the same caliber. It doesn't hold up as well as Avatar does, but it's still very good. It's still animated effectively. And even just visually speaking, I mean, it is visually more beautiful, and the animation is, I would say, just better in regards to because of just the timeline, right? Because it was made so many years later. And so I think it's definitely worth something. So if you want to continue scratching that Avatar itch, definitely watch through The Legend of Korra. And especially if you like strong female characters too, because Korra's all right, but I'm talking about people like Toph's girls, the Beifongs, and watching like Jinora and other people. Like, I think there are some really, really great characters in that show. So definitely, and again, don't just jump on the I Hate Korra train without really giving it a chance.
It's not the movie.
It's definitely not the movie. You can jump on the hate train of the movie without even seeing the movie, okay?
Well, and that's the thing. Everybody told me, don't watch the movie, and they're like, I gotta peek.
Yeah. I'm saying this, watch Korra, though. Season 2 is weird and rough. One of the characters is April Ludgate's voice, which is hilarious.
Oh, yes.
And that's one of the good things from Season 2. But get to Season 3, guys. Seriously, get to Season 3 of The Legend of Korra. You'll love it.
All right, so that's basically it for this. We're about to roll out of here.
Yeah, you're gonna write a chapter about the differences between Azula, and Zuko, and Iroh being there because you can have a dichotomy between the two of them.
Listen, first of all, book 7 is the longest book.
No one cares, right?
I care,
right?
It costs a lot of money to print that many pages.
Yeah, well, the people will read it.
You have 2 weeks.
I'll deal with it.
I was like, this is the longest book ever. It's going to cost the most. And we're at a
crunch time, yeah.
We're at a 2-week crunch time.
I should have started it 2 weeks ago, but just a lot of stuff happened. And so now it's like this week is going to be the week I started. So,
So I can't. Plus, we had this podcast. I don't know. Yeah. But, either way, we'll see how it goes. But thank you for listening. If you're listening on the podcast, please rate, like, subscribe, do all the things, share it around. If you're on Facebook, thanks for watching and looking at us awkwardly wave our hands for this time. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you later.